Ever wonder if some stories are best left untouched? For decades, Peter Jackson's trilogy stood as a pinnacle of fantasy cinema, and an emotional epic and technically groundbreaking saga. It set a new standard for the genre. Uh, but lately, something feels different. For years, Middle Earth rested peacefully. And then in recent times, the floodgates opened from Prime Videos to Warner Brothers, and the the franchise has become incredibly active. Is this a renaissance or a risk? The original trilogy and Tolkien's novels are um, almost sacred to fans. This sudden influx of new projects, each seemingly pulling Middle Earth in different directions, feels like a dangerous gamble. It's as if a beloved painting is being constantly retouched, losing its original beauty in the process. Right now, the franchise feels like it's at a crossroads. The demand for big imaginative fantasy is still strong, but the creative direction of Middle Earth is becoming increasingly unclear. It's a patchwork of tone, style, and intent, lacking a unified vision. With in the universe is more crowded than ever. But the further these projects stray from Tolkien's core mythology, the more they risk alienating longtime fans. Adaptations are stretching the boundaries of canon in ways the original trilogy never dared seem. Warner Brothers and Amazon clearly see the value in keeping Middle Earth alive. But this expansion feels more corporate than creative. Instead of serving Tolkien's timeless story, many of these new works seem more interested in reimagining it. It's not inherently bad, but when every project offers a drastically different take, the result feels fragmented. The franchise has become a strange paradox, still culturally powerful, but struggling to justify its modern output if it wants to reclaim its former glory. It needs to rediscover the focus and sincerity that once made it untouchable. Uh, it should have been a triumphant return, set centuries before. It explores the legend of Helm Hammerhand and his daughter Era. Unfortunately, despite good intentions, it landed with a thud. Critics were divided, and fans were underwhelmed, and the animation style was ambitious but often inconsistent. The story lacked the emotional depth and world building of Jackson's films, with it felt like a side story, like struggling to justify its existence. A grand return, it was not, and fans were left wanting more. The film tried to capture the operatic tragedy of Tolkien's world, but never quite reached it. Characters lacked the rich development fans expect, and the score and visual design couldn't fully capture the grandeur of Middle Earth. Um, it wasn't a bad film, just painfully average, uh, alongside promised an epic prequel exploring Tolkien's Second Age. Uh, it had all the ingredients for a dream come true. However, the execution has been complicated, and there's no denying the production value, and Meredith Clark delivers a compelling performance as Galadriel. But visual splendor can only take you so far. The series struggles to find a consistent tone and emotional center in the pacing is uneven, the dialogue lacks depth, and attempts to create mystery sometimes come off as forced. It's undeniably impressive, but rarely moving. The biggest problem wasn't ambition, but storytelling. The series introduced a massive ensemble and sprawling plot lines, but few characters left a lasting impression. And compared to the human warmth of Jackson's trilogy, it feels oddly detached. Among the new projects, none is more puzzling than that announcing a film centering around Gollum's earlier years raises questions. And his arc is already complete. Why revisit a character whose story concluded so powerfully in the original trilogy? It's an odd creative direction. Instead of exploring the countless untouched eras of Tolkien's legendarium, the film circles back to one of the most overexposed characters. It feels like a nostalgic play rather than a meaningful addition piece. And still, with Andy Serkis reprising his role and directing, there's a glimmer of hope. And at this point, it's worth asking if we even need more movies. The original trilogy remains a cinematic achievement that, when charmatically moved around 10 years, and together these films told a sweeping, satisfying version of Tolkien's universe. Anything beyond that feels like diminishing returns. But despite the skepticism, there's still hope. If a creative team can find a fresh yet faithful way to expand the mythology, the franchise could thrive again. Fans don't want more Middle-earth. They want meaningful Middle-earth. So do we really need more adventures in Middle-earth? Perhaps Tolkien himself would have cautioned us against tampering with perfection. After all, some stories are best left as cherished memories. Speaking of cherished memories, what do you call a hobbit with no beard? Unfrodoable. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time, we'll see.